The warning came on a Tuesday morning. Every screen on Earth lit up at the same time. Phones, computers, televisions, even the giant displays in city squares, all showed the same image. Massive ships hung in space near Jupiter, hundreds of them, each one larger than any city on Earth. They were dark and angular, covered in strange symbols that seemed to pulse with dim red light. Admiral Tae-Yang Park stood in the command center of Earth's largest space station, staring at the monitors. His coffee had gone cold in his hand. He had spent 30 years in the military, fought in the Mars Rebellion, commanded fleets in training exercises. But nothing had prepared him for this. The alien ships had appeared from nowhere, materializing out of empty space like ghosts becoming solid. "How many?" he asked, his voice steady despite the fear creeping up his spine. 300 warships, sir," replied the young officer at the scanner station. Her hands shook as she worked the controls. "The biggest one is... It's 50 kilometers long. 50 kilometers. Park tried to imagine it and failed. Earth's largest warship was barely 2 kilometers from end to end. These visitors could crush humanity's entire fleet without breaking a sweat. The message came an hour later. Every human language at once, perfectly spoken, as if the aliens had studied Earth for years. Maybe they had. The voice was deep and cold, completely without emotion. "People of Earth, we are the Velcrin Dominion. We have conquered 42 civilizations across this galaxy. You are now the 43rd. You have 72 hours to surrender all weapons, dismantle your governments, and accept your place in our empire. You will work for us. You will serve us. This is not negotiable. Resistance is pointless. We have never lost a war." The screen showed images then, cities burning on distant worlds, beings that looked almost human, working in massive factories under armed guards, children separated from parents. The message was clear: obey or be destroyed. Dr. Ha-Un Choi watched the broadcast from her laboratory in Seoul. She was a xenobiologist, someone who studied the possibility of alien life. For 15 years she had dreamed of first contact. She had imagined conversations, cultural exchanges, peaceful meetings between species. This nightmare was nothing like her dreams. Her phone rang. It was Admiral Park. "Dr. Choi, I need you on the next shuttle to the command station. We need to understand these beings. Their biology, their weaknesses, anything that might help us." "Help us do what?" she asked, though she already knew the answer. "Fight them." Ambassador Hai Wan-song tried diplomacy first. She had spent her career negotiating peace between Mars colonies and Earth governments, settling disputes without violence. Surely even alien conquerors could be reasoned with. She sent a message requesting a meeting, offering to discuss terms, suggesting compromise. The Velcrin response came quickly. A single word: no. The United Earth Council met an emergency session. Leaders from every nation gathered in the underground bunker in Geneva. The room was built to survive nuclear war, and now it might have to survive something far worse. Arguments broke out immediately. "We have to surrender," said the representative from Japan. "Look at their ships. We can't fight that." "If we surrender, we become slaves," countered the Brazilian delegate. "Our children will grow up in chains. Is that what we want?" Admiral Park stood and waited for silence. When he spoke, his voice carried the weight of hard experience. "The Velcrin have studied us. They've watched our broadcasts, learned our languages, seen our movies and news reports. They know about our wars, our conflicts, our divisions. They think we're weak. They think we'll panic and surrender because we've never faced a united enemy before." He paused, looking at each face in the room. "They're right that we've never faced anything like this. But they're wrong about one thing. When humanity is truly threatened, when our backs are against the wall, we don't break, we fight. My grandfather told me stories about the Second World War. Ordinary people doing extraordinary things because they had no choice. That's what we are now. Ordinary people with no choice but to be extraordinary. The vote was unanimous. Earth would not surrender. Captain Jin Woo Bei was a fighter pilot, one of the best. He flew a small, fast ship called the Storm Petrel, leading a squadron of 12 other pilots. They were young, cocky, the kind of pilots who took risks that made their commanders nervous. When he heard about the council's decision, he gathered his squadron in the briefing room. "We're going to hit them," he said simply. "Before the deadline, before they expect it. We're going to show these aliens what happens when they threaten Earth." "That's suicide," said one of his pilots, a woman named Dalneem. We don't even know if our weapons can hurt them. Jinwoo smiled, but it wasn't a happy smile. Then we'll find out. Someone has to throw the first punch. Might as well be us. They launched from the moon base 6 hours before the deadline expired. 13 small ships against an empire that had conquered worlds. The Velkrin had sent scouts closer to Earth. 5 ships circling the moon, watching, gathering data. They didn't expect an attack. Why would they? They were invincible. Jinwoo's squadron came in fast and low, using the moon's gravity to slingshot themselves at incredible speed. The Velkrin shields flickered to life, energy barriers that should have stopped any attack. But human weapons weren't energy-based. They were old-fashioned, stupid, simple. Missiles with explosive warheads, railguns that fired chunks of metal at hypersonic speeds. The first missile hit a Velkrin scout ship directly in the engine. The ship didn't explode like in the movies. It just stopped. Dead in space, its lights going dark. The second ship took 3 railgun rounds through its hull before it could turn to face them. The third ship managed to fire back, and Jinwoo watched in horror as Dalneem's ship exploded in a ball of fire. But they got it. All 5 scout ships disabled or destroyed. The cost was high, 4 of his pilots were dead. But they had proven something crucial. The Velkrin could bleed. When Jinwoo returned to base, he was shaking. Not from fear, but from the adrenaline crash. Admiral Park met him in the hangar. The older man looked at the young pilot for a long moment, then put a hand on his shoulder. "You just started a war," Park said quietly. Jinwoo met his eyes. "Good, let's finish it." The Velkrin response came swiftly. Their commander, Supreme Commander Vrathkar, sent a new message. His voice was no longer cold. It was angry. "You have made a grave mistake. We offered you mercy. Now you will learn why 42 civilizations chose surrender over destruction. Your attack has earned you only pain." On the command station, Admiral Park watched as 75 Velkrin warships broke formation and began moving toward Earth. It was only a quarter of their fleet. To them it was more than enough. To humanity it looked like the end of the world. But Park was already planning. He had bought time with Jinwoo's raid, time to prepare, time to think. The Velkrin thought they understood humanity. They had studied human history and seen thousands of years of warfare. But they had missed something important. They had missed the fact that humanity's greatest weapon wasn't technology or strength. It was the absolute refusal to give up no matter how bad things got. As the Velkrin fleet approached, every military base on Earth and Mars went to full alert. Factories that made cars began making missiles. Scientists who studied weather began studying weapons. Regular people, civilians who had never held a gun, volunteered for training. The war had begun, and humanity was ready to show the Velkrin something they had never encountered before. A species that would rather die fighting than live as slaves. Supreme Commander Vrathkar stood in the command chamber of his flagship, the Eternal Conquest. His scales were deep crimson, marking him as a high-caste warrior of the Velkrin. He had conquered 17 worlds personally, watching civilizations crumble before his fleet. This primitive planet called Earth should have been the easiest yet. The loss of 5 scout ships annoyed him, nothing more. It was like being bitten by an insect. Painful, yes, but hardly dangerous. These humans had attacked with weapons his people had stopped using 1,000 years ago. Kinetic projectiles, explosive chemicals. It was almost embarrassing. "Deploy 75 ships," he ordered. "Destroy their military installations. Make them understand their mistake." His second-in-command, a smaller Velkrin named Krelvath, hesitated. "Commander, their tactics were unusual. Perhaps we should study them further before—" Vrathkar silenced him with a gesture. "They got lucky. Luck runs out. Proceed." On Earth, Admiral Park gathered his command team. Dr. Choi had arrived from Seoul, along with Commander Subin Yu, head of Earth's Cyber Warfare Division. Commander Yu was small and quiet, easy to overlook, which was exactly how she liked it. She had started as a hacker, breaking into corporate networks for fun. Now she broke into military systems for her planet. "We can't fight them head-on," Park said, stating the obvious. "They're bigger, faster, and their shields stop most of our weapons. We need to be smarter." "I've been analyzing the wreckage from Jinwoo's attack," Dr. Choi said, pulling up images on the screen. "Their shields are impressive, but they're designed to stop energy weapons. Lasers, plasma, that sort of thing. Our railguns and missiles hit them hard because they're not expecting physical projectiles." Commander Yu leaned forward. "I've been trying to hack their communications. Their security is good, but it's rigid. Everything goes through a central command structure. No redundancy, no backup systems. If we can disrupt their command ship, the whole fleet might fall apart. Park nodded slowly. So we hit them where they don't expect it. We use weapons they think are primitive. We attack their command structure, and we make them think we're more dangerous than we actually are. How do we do that last part? Asked Jinwoo, who had been invited to the meeting after his successful raid. Park smiled grimly. We show them our history, all of it. The wars, the revolutions, the times we nearly destroyed ourselves. We make them understand that fighting each other is what we do best. Fighting them is just another Tuesday. The Battle of Mars orbit began 36 hours later. The Velcrin fleet approached Mars, where humanity had its largest off-world military base. They expected an easy victory. What they got was chaos. Human ships didn't fight like Velcrin ships. They didn't form organized battle lines or follow predictable patterns. They swarmed like angry bees, attacking from every direction at once. Small fighters dove between the larger Velcrin warships, too fast and too small for the aliens' targeting systems to track effectively. Jinwoo led his squadron straight into the heart of the enemy formation. His computer screamed warnings at him, showing a dozen different weapons locked onto his ship. He ignored them all. At the last second, he fired every missile he had and pulled up hard, the G-forces crushing him into his seat. Behind him, 3 Velcrin ships took direct hits. Their shields flickered and died. The cost was terrible. In the first hour, humanity lost 30 warships, crews of thousands gone in flashes of light. But the Velcrin lost too. Their casualties were smaller, only 6 ships, but to them it was impossible. They were the Velcrin Dominion. They didn't take casualties from primitives. On the Eternal Conquest, Vrathkar watched the battle with growing frustration. His tactical officer reported the losses, voice confused. Commander, they're not fighting logically. They sacrifice ships to land single hits. They ram our vessels when their weapons are depleted. It's madness, it's desperation, Vrathkar replied. But privately he wondered. The humans fought like they had nothing to lose, or like they were used to losing and didn't care. While the battle raged, Commander Yu sat in her darkened office on Earth, her fingers flying across multiple keyboards. She had found a crack in the Velcrin network during the first attack. Now she widened it, slipping digital probes into their systems like a thief picking a lock. What she found shocked her. The Velcrin fleet was coordinated entirely through the flagship. Every order, every target, every tactical decision flowed from the Eternal Conquest to the other ships. Take out that one vessel and the fleet would be paralyzed. She called Admiral Park immediately. I know how to win, she said. But it's going to be insane. On Mars, the battle continued. A human captain named Sung-ho made a decision that would be remembered forever. His ship was crippled, engines dead, weapons empty. A Velcrin cruiser moved in for the kill. Instead of ejecting in an escape pod, Sung-ho aimed his dying ship directly at the enemy vessel and fired his last thrusters. The collision was devastating. Both ships exploded, but the Velcrin cruiser had been carrying ammunition for 3 other vessels. The secondary explosion took out 2 more ships nearby. 1 human ship for 3 Velcrin vessels. By any measure, it was a victory. By human standards, it was a tragedy. News of Captain Sung-ho's sacrifice spread across human channels instantly. It didn't demoralize the other crews. It inspired them. They began taking even bigger risks, making the Velcrin pay for every meter of space. Meanwhile, engineer Dong-hyun Kim worked in a secret facility inside the asteroid series. He was old, grumpy, and brilliant. For 10 years, he had been preparing for this day, building weapons based on the assumption that humanity would someday meet hostile aliens. Everyone had called him paranoid. Now they called him a genius. His masterpiece was simple in concept but devastating in execution. A mass driver, a magnetic cannon that could accelerate tungsten rods to a significant fraction of light speed. He called it Prometheus after the Greek god who gave fire to humanity. It was humanity's fire, aimed at the gods who thought themselves superior. When the Velcrin fleet moved deeper into the asteroid belt, searching for human supply depots, Dong-hyun was ready. He didn't ask permission. He didn't wait for orders. He simply fired. 3 tungsten rods, each one weighing 10 tons, accelerated to 30,000 kilometers per second. At that speed, they didn't need explosives. Kinetic energy did all the work. The first rod hit a Velcrin capital ship dead center. The ship didn't explode. It simply ceased to exist, torn apart by the impact. The second and third rods struck two more ships with similar results. For the first time since arriving at Earth, the Velcrin fleet stopped advancing. They had lost 9 ships in total. Hrathkar stared at the tactical display in disbelief. 9 ships, against a species that couldn't even travel faster than light. It was impossible. It was humiliating. He opened a channel to all his ships. Pull back. Regroup at Jupiter. We need to reassess these humans. The word tasted bitter in his mouth. For the first time in his long military career, he felt something he had never experienced before. Doubt. On Earth, people watched the battle footage in stunned silence. They had lost so much, 30 ships, thousands of lives. But they had also won. The invincible Velcrin were retreating. It wasn't much, but it was hope. Admiral Park addressed the planet that night. His face was tired, lines of stress visible around his eyes. Today we prove something important. We can hurt them. We can make them bleed. This war is far from over, but now we know it's a war we can win. They came here expecting slaves. They found soldiers. Let's make sure they never forget the difference. In his quarters, Jinwoo couldn't sleep. He kept seeing Dalnim's ship exploding, kept hearing her last words over the radio. Got one, she had shouted, laughing right before the end. He had lost friends before, in training accidents and the Mars Rebellion. But this was different. This was war against an enemy that wanted to enslave his entire species. He made a promise to himself and to Dalnim's memory. He would keep fighting until the Velcrin were gone or he was dead. There was no middle ground anymore. No compromise, just survival or extinction. On the Eternal Conquest, Hrathkar studied reports about human history that his intelligence officers had compiled. He read about world wars, about nuclear weapons, about a species that had nearly destroyed itself multiple times but somehow always survived. He read about human tactics, guerrilla warfare, suicide attacks, total war. For the first time, he understood what his fleet faced. These weren't just primitives with lucky shots. They were survivors of countless wars, a species that had been forged in violence for thousands of years. The Velcrin had conquered civilizations that surrendered when defeat seemed inevitable. Humans didn't seem to understand that concept. He called his senior officers together. We underestimated them, he admitted, something no Velcrin commander had ever said before. This will not be easy. But we will prevail. Send a message to the Dominion, request reinforcements, and prepare for a long war. What neither side knew was that this war would change everything, not just for Earth and the Velcrin, but for the entire galaxy. Humanity's refusal to surrender would echo across the stars, inspiring others who lived under Velcrin rule. The age of easy conquests was ending. The age of resistance was beginning. And it started with one simple fact. The missiles came at dawn. Sydney saw them first, bright streaks in the early morning sky that people mistook for meteors until they started falling. The orbital bombardment lasted 6 minutes. When it was over, Australia's largest city was a crater filled with burning rubble. 3 million people died in those 6 minutes. Mumbai was next, then Rio de Janeiro. The Velcrin didn't target military bases or government buildings. They targeted cities, civilians, people who had nothing to do with the war. The message was clear: surrender or watch your world burn. Supreme Commander Hrathkar watched the bombardment from his flagship, his expression cold and satisfied. In his experience, killing civilians broke a species' will to fight faster than destroying armies. Let them see what resistance costs. Let them understand the price of defiance. He was wrong. General Kyung-Suk Han had been in Mumbai when the missiles fell. She survived because she was underground, inspecting a military command bunker. When she emerged, her city was gone. Everything she knew, everyone she loved, erased in fire. She stood in the ruins covered in dust and blood, and something inside her hardened into steel. She walked to the nearest intact communication station and sent a message to every military unit on Earth. This is General Han. I just watched millions die. I will not watch billions follow them. Every soldier, every pilot, every person who can hold a weapon, we fight. We fight until they're gone or we're dead. There is no other option now. The response was overwhelming. Recruitment centers were flooded with volunteers. People who had been teachers, doctors, artists lined up to join the military. Factories that made consumer goods converted to weapons production overnight. Every person on Earth became a soldier in one way or another. Admiral Park called an emergency meeting. His command team looked exhausted, running on coffee and determination. Commander Yu had barely slept in 3 days hunting for weaknesses in the Velcrin network. Dr. Choi had analyzed every piece of alien wreckage they could recover. Jinwoo had flown 12 combat missions in 4 days. "We're losing," Park said bluntly. "Not because they're better fighters. They're not. But they have more ships, more resources, more time. Eventually, they'll grind us down through pure attrition. Then we change the game," Commander Yu said. She pulled up a diagram of the Velcrin fleet. "I've mapped their entire command structure. Every order comes from the Eternal Conquest. If we take out that ship, their fleet becomes a bunch of individual vessels with no coordination. They'll be vulnerable." Jinwoo studied the display. "That ship is in the center of their formation, protected by 50 other warships. How do we reach it?" "We don't sneak in," Park said slowly, an idea forming. "We drive straight through. Full assault every ship we have. Throw everything at them and punch a hole through their lines. It'll be suicide for whoever leads the attack, but if we can get one ship through, one bomb on that flagship, I'll do it," Jinwoo said immediately. Park looked at the young pilot. "Jinwoo, you understand what I'm saying? The survival rate for this mission is 0. "I understand. I'll do it anyway." Jinwoo's voice was steady. "Someone has to. And I'm the best pilot we have. No offense to anyone else, but it's true. If anyone can make it through, it's me." Dr. Choi spoke up. "There might be another way. I've been working on something with Young Jae." She gestured to her young assistant, a scientist named Young Jae Lim who looked like he hadn't slept in a week. "We've analyzed Velcrin biology from the recovered bodies. Their immune systems are incredibly specialized. Too specialized. They've conquered so many worlds that they've been exposed to thousands of different pathogens, and they've adapted to fight all of them." "That sounds like a strength, not a weakness," Jinwoo said. "It is against alien diseases," Young Jae explained. "But Earth microbes evolved in complete isolation from the rest of the galaxy. Their systems don't recognize our bacteria and viruses. A simple cold virus could devastate them." The room went quiet. "You're talking about biological warfare," Ambassador Song said. She had joined the meeting via video link from Geneva. "That crosses a line. They crossed that line when they bombed our cities," General Han said coldly. She had joined the meeting as well, her uniform still dirty from the Mumbai ruins. "They killed millions of civilians. If we have a weapon that can stop them, we use it. We'll develop it as a backup option," Park decided. "But we try the direct approach first. Jinwoo, start planning your mission. Commander Yu, keep working on their networks. If we can disrupt their communications even for a few minutes, it might be enough." The Battle of Earth began 3 days later. Every human warship, from massive carriers to tiny fighters, launched at once. It was the largest military operation in human history. The plan was simple in concept, brutal in execution. Create a corridor of destruction straight through the Velcrin formation to their flagship. The cost was immediate and terrible. Human ships died by the dozens in the first minutes, destroyed by Velcrin weapons that turned them into clouds of debris. But for every human ship that fell, it cleared a path for the ones behind. They were building a road of wreckage, and Jinwoo's squadron flew down that road toward the heart of darkness. On the Eternal Conquest, Vrethkar watched in amazement as the human fleet simply threw itself at his defenses. "They're insane," he muttered. "They know they can't win. Why do they keep fighting?" Krelvath, his second-in-command, had been studying human history. "Because surrender isn't in their nature, Commander. They would rather die than submit. I've read their records. When faced with extinction, they fight harder." Jinwoo's squadron was down to 4 ships when they broke through the outer defenses. His cockpit alarms screamed constantly, showing damage to every system. Behind him, a pilot named Ho Jin took a direct hit and vanished in an explosion. 3 ships left. 2. The Eternal Conquest filled his view now, massive and terrible. "This is Jinwoo," he transmitted on an open channel so the whole fleet could hear. "Tell my squadron they flew like legends. Tell Earth. Tell them we didn't surrender. We never will." His remaining wingman, a pilot named Jae-sung, spoke up. "Jinwoo, eject. I'll finish this. Negative. Get clear." "That's an order." "Since when do I follow orders?" Jae-sung's ship accelerated past Jinwoo's damaged fighter, heading straight for the flagship. Tell my daughter I'm sorry I missed her birthday. Tell her daddy went to make the world safe. Jin Woo watched helplessly as Jae Sung's ship, loaded with a nuclear warhead, crashed into the Eternal Conquest's command tower. The explosion was beautiful and terrible, a miniature sun blooming in the darkness of space. The flagship shuddered, lights flickering across its massive hull, but it didn't explode. The ship was too large, too well built. The warhead had damaged it severely, destroyed the command tower, but the vessel remained intact. Hrothgar was dead, killed in the explosion, but the ship's automated systems kept it functioning. Then Commander Yu's hack activated. She had been waiting for this moment, for the flagship systems to be disrupted. Her virus spread through the Velcrin network like wildfire, shutting down communications, scrambling targeting computers, turning their advanced technology against them. The Velcrin fleet fell into chaos. Without central coordination, ships began firing on each other by mistake. Some tried to retreat, others attacked randomly. It was the opportunity humanity needed. All ships press the attack, Admiral Park ordered. Don't give them time to recover. The battle raged for 6 more hours. When it was over, the Velcrin fleet had lost 40 ships. The human fleet had lost nearly 100. But the Velcrin were broken, their formation shattered, their command dead. They retreated to Jupiter's orbit, limping and defeated. Jin Woo managed to land his crippled ship on the moon base. When they pulled him from the cockpit, he was crying. Not from fear or pain, but from grief for all the pilots who hadn't made it back. He had started this war with 13 pilots in his squadron. Now he was the only one left. That night, Earth mourned its dead and celebrated its survival. They had proven that the Velcrin could be beaten. The aliens were no longer invincible, but everyone knew the war wasn't over. The Velcrin still had ships, still had weapons, and humans had learned a terrible truth. Freedom's price was measured in blood. They would pay it as much as necessary because the alternative was chains, and humanity had decided, unanimously and without question, that chains were not an option. Not now, not ever. The Velcrin fleet hung in Jupiter's orbit like wounded animals, licking their wounds and trying to understand what had happened. Sub-Commander Krelvath now led what remained of their forces. He sat in the temporary command center, staring at casualty reports that shouldn't exist. 40 warships destroyed, Supreme Commander Hrothgar dead, thousands of Velcrin warriors gone, all because of humans. He opened a secure channel to the Velcrin homeworld, knowing his message would take weeks to arrive and more weeks for a response. This is Sub-Commander Krelvath of the Eternal Conquest. Supreme Commander Hrothgar is dead. We have suffered significant losses against the humans of Earth. Request immediate reinforcements and strategic guidance. The response, when it finally came, was worse than he expected. No reinforcements available. The Dominion is fighting rebellions on 3 fronts. Subjugate Earth or withdraw. Do not request further assistance. The High Council had abandoned them. They were on their own, millions of miles from home, fighting an enemy they didn't understand. On Earth, the mood was cautiously hopeful. Cities were rebuilding. The dead were being buried or burned according to their customs. Memorials were erected. Captain Jae Sung, who had sacrificed himself to damage the flagship, became a symbol of human courage. His face appeared on murals, his name spoken with reverence. But Admiral Park knew the war wasn't over. He gathered his core team once again. The Velcrin are hurt but not beaten. We need to decide our next move. Do we press the attack or give them a chance to leave? Press the attack, General Han said immediately. They killed billions of us. They deserve no mercy. Ambassador Song shook her head. If we pursue them, we risk turning this into a forever war. They have an entire empire behind them. We barely survived 1 fleet. Can we handle the next one? Commander Yu pulled up intelligence reports. I've been monitoring their communications. They're not getting reinforcements. The Velcrin Dominion is overextended, fighting multiple wars. This fleet is stranded here with limited resources. They're running out of fuel, ammunition, medical supplies. Park leaned forward with interest. So they can't win a long war either. We have leverage. Dr. Choi cleared her throat. There's something else we need to consider. Young Jae and I completed the biological weapon. It's ready to deploy. 1 shuttle could deliver it to their fleet. Within days, every Velcrin would be incapacitated. We could end this war tomorrow. The room fell silent. Young Jae looked uncomfortable. I need to say something. I worked on this weapon because I thought we needed it. But now that it's ready, I'm not sure we should use it. It's one thing to fight soldiers in combat. It's another to unleash a plague. Even on our enemies. They didn't hesitate to bomb our cities, General Han reminded him. They killed civilians without mercy. Which is exactly why we shouldn't be like them, Ambassador Song argued. If we use this weapon, we become the monsters. We prove them right about us, Jinwoo spoke quietly. I've killed Velkrin in combat. Dozens of them. Each time I knew they were trying to kill me too. That's war, but releasing a plague feels different. It feels wrong. Park listened to everyone's opinions, then made his decision. We keep the weapon as a last resort. If they attack our cities again, if they try to exterminate us, we'll use it. But first we try something else. We offer them terms. 2 days later, Ambassador Song broadcast a message to the Velkrin fleet. This is Ambassador Haiwan Song of Earth. We know you're stranded. We know you're not getting reinforcements. You came here to conquer us and failed. You killed millions of our people and we will never forgive that. But we're not like you. We don't want to exterminate you. Here are our terms. Leave our solar system. Never return. Do this and we let you go. Refuse and we will destroy what's left of your fleet. You have 48 hours to decide. On the Eternal Conquest, Krelvath listened to the message 3 times. His officers argued about the response. Some wanted to fight to the death, die with honor rather than accept terms from primitives. Others saw the practical reality. They were beaten and continuing the fight meant certain destruction. Krelvath made a decision that went against everything he had been taught. He responded to Ambassador Song's message. We request a meeting, face to face. I want to understand the species that defeated the Velkrin Dominion. The meeting took place on neutral ground, a small space station halfway between Earth and Jupiter. Ambassador Song arrived with Admiral Park and a security team. Krelvath came with 2 guards looking exhausted and defeated. His scales, which should have been vibrant crimson, looked dull and gray. They sat across from each other in a sparse conference room. For a long moment, neither spoke. Finally, Krelvath broke the silence. I studied your species before we arrived. I read about your wars, your violence, your inability to unite. I thought you would be easy to conquer. I was wrong. You misunderstood what you saw, Park replied. Yes, we fight among ourselves. Yes, we have conflicts. But when someone from outside threatens us, we become one people. That's what you missed. Your tactics make no sense, Krelvath continued. You sacrifice valuable ships and pilots for minor victories. You ram our vessels. You use primitive weapons. It's illogical. Ambassador Song smiled sadly. To you, maybe. To us, it's survival. We don't have the luxury of fighting wars the right way. We use what works, no matter how ugly it is. I cannot accept your terms, Krelvath said. If I return home defeated, I will be executed. My family will be disgraced. The Velkrin do not accept failure. Then don't go home, Park suggested. Stay in your ships and leave. Find another world somewhere far from both Earth and your home world. Start over. Krelvath looked shocked. You would let us go? After everything we did? No, Song admitted. Many humans want you dead. If I held a vote right now, they would choose to destroy your fleet. But I'm betting that you're tired of this war too. I'm betting that your soldiers want to go home. Or at least somewhere safe. Take them, leave, never come back. That's the deal. Krelvath was quiet for a long time. What about your demands for our technology? For reparations? We'll figure out faster than light travel on our own, Park said. Might take us years, but we'll do it. As for reparations, you can't bring back our dead. Money and resources won't heal those wounds. The best reparation you can give us is leaving and making sure no other Velkrin fleet ever comes here. Meanwhile, back on Earth, Commander Jae-hoon Shin was leading raids in the outer solar system. He was a merchant captain before the war, running cargo between Earth and the asteroid colonies. Now he commanded a small fleet of converted freighters, attacking Velkrin supply depots and isolated ships. His crews were civilians turned soldiers, fighting with whatever weapons they could find. During one raid, they captured a Velkrin supply officer named Thelvan. Instead of killing him, Jae-hoon brought him aboard his ship. Tell me about your empire, he demanded. How many species have you conquered? Thelvan, expecting torture, was surprised by the question. 42 species across 73 worlds. And how many of them wanted to be conquered? None, but they had no choice. Jae-hoon smiled grimly. We had a choice too. Surrender or fight. We chose fight. Maybe that'll inspire some of your other subjects. Dr. Mi Kyung-an, a linguist working with Commander Yu, had been decoding Velcrin communications. She discovered something interesting. There were debates among Velcrin crew members about the war. Some wanted to continue fighting. Others questioned why they were dying for a pointless conquest. The unity of the Velcrin fleet was fracturing. Back at the negotiation, Krelvath finally spoke. "I will accept your terms with one condition. I want to address your people. I want to apologize for what we did." Song and Park exchanged looks. "Why?" Park asked. "Because it's the right thing to do. Because my people need to hear me say it. Because maybe, someday, your species and mine can meet again under better circumstances." The broadcast went out across all human channels. Krelvath appeared on screens worldwide, his translation coming through clearly. "People of Earth, I am Sub-Commander Krelvath of the Velcrin Dominion. I came to your world to conquer you. Instead, you defeated us. You showed us that strength is not measured in ships or weapons, but in the will to resist. We killed millions of you. Nothing I say can change that. But I want you to know that we were wrong. Wrong to attack you. Wrong to underestimate you. Wrong to think any species should rule over another. My fleet is leaving. We will not return. And I will make sure everyone in the Dominion knows what happened here. You are a dangerous species, not because of your weapons or technology, but because you refuse to give up. That is your greatest strength. That is why you won." The Velcrin fleet departed 3 days later, damaged ships limping away from Earth's solar system, heading out into the unknown. They would never reach home. Instead, they would find an uninhabited star system and build a new life, far from the Dominion that had abandoned them. As the last Velcrin ship disappeared from sensors, Jinwoo stood in the observation deck and watched them go. He felt no triumph, only exhaustion. He had survived when so many friends hadn't. The price of victory felt too high. But he knew one thing for certain: Earth was safe. His planet had faced extinction and survived. Humanity had shown the galaxy what it was capable of. 5 years after the Velcrin War, Earth looked different. The cities that had been destroyed were rebuilt, taller and stronger than before. Memorials stood in every major city, black stone walls carved with millions of names. The dead were never forgotten. Their sacrifice had bought humanity something precious, a future among the stars. Admiral Taeyang Park stood in his new office aboard the Titan station, humanity's first deep space military installation built beyond Neptune's orbit. His hair had gone completely gray during the war and new lines marked his face. But his eyes were sharp as ever, watching the construction of humanity's first faster-than-light warship through the massive windows. Engineer Dong-Hyun Kim had done it. After years of studying captured Velcrin technology and combining it with human innovation, he had cracked the secret of FTL travel. The ship being built was called the Indomitable Spirit, and it represented everything humanity had become: tough, determined, and ready to explore the unknown. "Beautiful, isn't she?" Dong-Hyun said, joining Park at the window. The old engineer looked tired but satisfied. "Never thought I'd live to see this day. Humans traveling faster than light. 30 years ago, we thought Mars was far. Now we're planning missions to other star systems." "Thanks to you," Park replied. "Your Prometheus weapon saved us during the war. And your work on FTL drives gave us a future." Dong-Hyun shrugged. "I just built tools. You and your people used them right. That's what made the difference." Dr. Ha-Yoon Choi ran the Xenobiology Institute now, a massive research facility on the moon. Her work had expanded beyond studying aliens to preparing humanity for future first contacts. She taught classes on alien psychology, biological compatibility, and the ethics of interspecies relations. Her students would be the ones who made sure humanity never again faced an enemy without understanding them first. One of her students asked a question that had been on many minds. "Dr. Choi, do you think we'll meet more hostile aliens? Should we expect more wars?" She considered her answer carefully. "The galaxy is vast. There are probably thousands of intelligent species out there. Some will be peaceful, some will be hostile, some will be neither, just different from us. The Velcrin taught us we need to be ready for anything. But they also taught us something more important. We can survive anything if we work together." News from across the galaxy had been filtering in through various means. The Velcrin Dominion was collapsing. When word spread that humans, a species without FTL travel or energy shields, had defeated a Velcrin fleet, other conquered species started rebelling. 3 of the Dominion's 7-member species had broken away, declaring independence. Dozens of subject worlds were in open revolt. Commander Subin Yu headed the new Galactic Intelligence Agency. Her job was monitoring alien communications and keeping Earth informed about interstellar politics. She briefed the Council regularly on galactic events. The Velkrin were the biggest military power in this region of space, she explained. With them weakened, there's a power vacuum. New alliances are forming. Some species are interested in meeting us. Others are afraid of us. Afraid? Asked a council member. We barely survived 1 war. They don't know that, Yu replied with a slight smile. All they know is we beat the Velkrin. They're calling us the defiant ones in their communications. Some species want to be our friends. Others want to be our enemies. But all of them are taking us seriously. Jinwu had retired from active combat duty after the war. He couldn't do it anymore. Couldn't risk his life daily when he kept seeing the faces of dead friends every time he closed his eyes. Instead, he became an instructor at Earth's premier flight academy, teaching a new generation of pilots. He was tough on his students, demanding perfection, because he knew their lives would depend on their skills. One day, a young pilot named Sunmi asked him the question everyone wondered but few dared to voice. Captain Bei, were you scared during the war? Jinwu was quiet for a moment. Every single day, he admitted. I was terrified. But being scared doesn't mean you don't fight. It means you fight anyway. That's what courage really is. Not the absence of fear, but doing what needs to be done despite the fear. General Kyung-suk Han commanded Earth's ground defense forces, making sure humanity would never be caught unprepared again. She had built an army that combined traditional military training with the guerrilla tactics that had worked so well against the Velkrin. Every able-bodied person on Earth received basic combat training. Not because they expected another war, but because they were never taking chances again. Ambassador Hye Wan-song had a new title, Earth's first galactic ambassador. She was humanity's face to the universe, the one who made first contact with new species and established diplomatic relations. It was a role she took seriously, balancing humanity's interests with the need to build peaceful relationships. The moment that would define the next chapter of human history came on a quiet Tuesday morning, almost exactly 5 years after the Velkrin first arrived. Sensors detected a ship approaching from deep space. Alarms went off across every military installation. Was it another invasion? The ship broadcast a message in broken English. Greetings, people of Earth. We are the Althari Collective, a federation of peaceful species. We have heard of your war with the Velkrin Dominion. We come as friends if you will have us. We seek to establish diplomatic relations and offer an alliance. Ambassador Song led the first contact team, approaching the Althari ship cautiously. The Althari looked nothing like humans or Velkrin. They were crystalline beings, their bodies reflecting light in beautiful patterns. Their leader, called a Harmony Keeper, greeted Song with what might have been a smile. We have watched your species from afar, the Harmony Keeper said. Your resistance to the Velkrin inspired many worlds. You showed that even the mighty can be defeated by those with courage. We want to know you better, to learn from you. Song was diplomatic but honest. We're interested in friendship, but we're also cautious. The last aliens who came to Earth tried to conquer us. We're not eager to repeat that experience. Understandable, the Harmony Keeper replied. Trust must be earned. We propose a simple beginning. Cultural exchange. Scientific cooperation. No military alliances yet, just 2 species learning about each other. The agreement they reached that day was the foundation of humanity's place in the galactic community. The Althari taught humans about other species, about galactic politics, about the complex web of alliances and rivalries that existed among the stars. In return, humans shared their art, their music, their stories, and yes, their military tactics. The galaxy was learning that humans were more than just warriors. They were creators, dreamers, survivors. A massive memorial was built in Earth orbit, visible from the surface with the naked eye on clear nights. It was a ring of metal and light, carved with the names of everyone who died in the war. Billions of names, each one representing a life cut short. In the center of the memorial floated a simple message in every Earth language and several alien languages. They expected surrender. We gave them defiance. This is humanity. Admiral Park visited the memorial on the 5th anniversary of the war's end. He was an old man now, planning to retire soon. His career had spanned humanity's transformation from a single-planet species to a galactic power. As he floated in his spacesuit near the memorial, reading names of people he had known, a young officer joined him. "Admiral Park? I'm sorry to interrupt, but I wanted to meet you. My name is Bora. My parents died in Mumbai. I joined the military because of what you said after the battle, that we would fight until we were free or dead." Those words kept me going through training, through the hard days. Park looked at the young woman and saw the future, a generation that had grown up knowing humanity could face the impossible and survive. "What made us win?" he asked her, genuinely curious what the next generation thought. Bora thought carefully. "I've studied the war extensively. The Velkrin were stronger, had better technology, more experience. But they made one critical error. They studied our history and thought they understood us. They saw our wars and divisions. They saw our primitive weapons. They thought we would break. But they missed the most important thing about humanity." "What's that?" Park asked, though he had his own answer. "That we're adaptable. Every time we face a challenge we can't overcome with strength, we find another way. We learn, we improvise. We survive." The Velkrin followed the same tactics they'd used for 1,000 years. We made up new tactics every day. They fought to conquer. We fought to survive. And survival is the strongest motivation there is. Park smiled. "That's a good answer. Here's mine. The Velkrin saw our capacity for violence and thought that's all we were. But they didn't see our capacity for sacrifice. They didn't understand that we would die for each other, for our families, for strangers we'd never met just because they were human too. That unity, that willingness to sacrifice everything for a common cause, that's what beat them. They fought for an empire. We fought for each other." The indomitable spirit launched a month later, humanity's first faster-than-light warship heading out to explore the galaxy. Its mission was both peaceful and protective. Make friends where possible, defend humanity's interests where necessary.